President Ronald Reagan died on June 5th, 2004, and here's a little experimental simulation of what you might have seen on TV that day.
The 40th President of the United States died today in Los Angeles. He was 93 years old. The official cause of death, pneumonia. But the former president had been battling Alzheimer's disease for 10 years.
Ronald Reagan saw himself as a savior with a mission to tame the government, get it off the backs of the American people. And he wanted to make sure that the United States loomed large on the world stage. Gone was the Carter administration and the melees it had come to stand for. Brandishing his landslide, Ronald Reagan ran all that out of town. He got right down to business.
And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
Proposing massive tax cuts and deep spending reductions, which the Democrats criticized as trickle-down economics and welfare for the rich. But the wrangling and political backbiting stopped cold when a gunman opened fire, an assassination attempt. It was just 3 months into the presidency.
I didn't know I was shot. In fact, I was still asking, what was that noise? I thought it was firecrackers.
The bullets from John Hinckley's gun missed the president's heart by an inch. The shooting made Ronald Reagan a hero and helped him restore power to the presidency. His proposal to cut government and taxes passed in the first 100 days of his presidency.
We'll continue with your phone calls to Bogalusa, Louisiana.
I hope that he got his business fixed with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ before he died. Ronald Reagan was hateful. He encouraged apartheid in South Africa. You people need to understand why we feel the way we do, because he flooded through the Iran Contra deal, crack cocaine in our inner cities, destroying our young people.
Upstate New York, Saratoga.
Americans also need to remember that this is the president who made ketchup a vegetable in the schools in terms of understanding how the depth of the disparity between the have and the have-nots.
Rock Falls, Illinois.
I have no doubt that I will be telling my future grandchildren and my great-grandchildren that Ronald Reagan was the greatest president to serve in my lifetime. Thank you.
And liftoff.
When the space shuttle Challenger's astronauts, including a schoolteacher, died before the world's eyes, he led the country in communal mourning.
We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them, this morning, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye.
When it came to his enemies, he rode them hard, like the Soviet Union, which he called the evil empire. The president asked Congress for an additional $180 billion in defense spending. He put mid-range nuclear missiles in Europe and aimed them at Moscow. When it came to the Russians, it was always high noon.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
His first summit meeting with Mikhail Gorbachev, Geneva, 1985. The two had an instant rapport. The sheer force of their personalities would help bring about a turning point in U.S.-Soviet relations. But in the meantime, the president fought communist insurgencies, especially in Central America, flexing American military muscle on the Caribbean island of Grenada.
34-year-old Jennifer Lopez said "I do" for the third time in 6 years. Lopez married singer Mark Anthony in a private ceremony at her Beverly Hills home.
And the marriage?
Terrorism targeted at Americans increased during his presidency, and it proved to be one of Mr. Reagan's toughest challenges at a time when he was dealing with questions about his age, his competency, and his stamina. June 14th, 1985. TWA Flight 847 is hijacked after leaving Athens.
He has pulled a hand grenade pin and he is ready to blow up the aircraft if he has to.
Then Americans were taken hostage in Beirut.
Doing everything we can.
In an attempt to free the hostages, the president agreed to a secret scheme to sell arms to Iran in exchange for the release of the Americans. But even his Secretary of State was against the idea.
Arms for hostages is a misguided idea because it only encourages hostage-taking and leads to disastrous results.
It was a political disaster. His reputation and prestige took a beating.
A few months ago, I told the American people I did not trade arms for hostages. My heart and my best intentions still tell me that's true. But the facts and the evidence tell me it is not.
Ironically, his old nemesis, the Soviet Union, helped divert attention from the debacle. Gorbachev came to Washington in late 1987 to sign a nuclear weapons treaty. For the first time, it reduced the huge arsenals that threatened Armageddon.
It's just somebody, I remember my mom being in the kitchen going, oh, damn, that Reagan. So I know the name so well that
when I think of Ronald Reagan, I think 80s, and the 80s is real close to me. And so that whole chapter of my life is now kind of put away.
Jimmy Carter's still here.
He was 70s.
Oh, okay.
The 80s was, good fun, brand new rock and roll kind of upbeat music, John Hughes films, Atari. And Ronald Reagan.
It's always sad when people die.
And I want to know what these people think this man has done right when he was president. I mean, he wouldn't even say the word AIDS on television. There was this, epidemic going on in the country, and he wouldn't care to help it.
Meriden, Connecticut.
Find it reprehensible that people from both sides of the aisle are calling in and bickering back and forth. This is not the time for partisan politics. This is a time to respect and honor a great American who has passed on. Once again, I did not agree with everything he did, but I respected him as a president, and I think it's just sad to see people drag this through the mud.
By the time he said goodbye to the nation...
This is the 34th time I'll speak to you from the Oval Office, and the last. We've been together...
His credit list was long, but the one that stands out, ending the Cold War, will most certainly be how he is remembered most in history.